Good morning and welcome to Daily Cyber Briefing for Tuesday the 19th of November. I'm Stephen Ridgway coming to you from a very grey, wet, cold and miserable Sussex. Right, VMware vCenter and Kemp LoadMaster vulnerabilities are under active exploitation. So the US Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, who you may, I'm sure, are aware, I think do a very good job in many ways. Their information is generally pretty good. They have added a couple of vulnerabilities into the known exploited database. So the vulnerability in Progress Kemp LoadMaster. LoadMaster, it's a load balancer. For those of you, if you're not using it, then this vulnerability probably doesn't matter. But if you are using it, you know what it is. However, it is a load balancer. CVE 2024 1212 with a CVSS score of 10. Is being currently exploited. It's an OS command injection vulnerability that allows unauthenticated remote attacker to access the system through the management interface. Also, CVE 2024, no, hang on, where are we? VMware, yeah, there we are. So CVE 2024 388 12, CVSS score of 9.8, and 2024 38813 with a score of 7.5 have also been noted as being currently exploited. Patches are available for all of these and have been for a while. So if you are using these solutions, as always, strong recommendation, get them patched ASAP. It is no longer theoretical as to whether this stuff is being exploited. It is actively being exploited. Right. Palo Alto have patched two firewall 0 days that are also being actively exploited. First one is CVE 2024-0012. An authentication bypass in PanOS Management Web Interface. Management Web Interfaces are the theme of the day, aren't they? And CVE 2024-9474, which is a privilege escalation security flaw that allows malicious PanOS administrators to perform actions on the firewall with root privileges. The vulnerabilities have been around for a while. It has taken Palo Alto a little while to get the patches out there. If you are using devices with PanOS, be aware that these patches are now available. As always, very strong recommendation to test and patch. And if you are not going to patch for whatever reason, make sure that you understand fully what the business risk is of not patching. CISA has given federal agencies until the 9th of December to get these patched. So there is clearly some pressure to get on with it. I would recommend that you, at the very least, follow that guidance. And also, whilst we're talking about US government agencies, DocuSign phishing scams in the US have surged by nearly 100% in the last year. No, I read that wrong. They have surged 100% this month compared to September and October of this year. So variation on the normal phishing scams. Send you something with, a call call to action, sense of urgency, all the rest of it, blah, blah, blah. I'll get you to do something which then either leaks your data or installs malware or whatever it might be. Well, there is clearly a trend towards impersonating government agencies. Now, when you're thinking about generating a sense of urgency, impersonating a government agency is probably not a bad thing to do, is it? If a government agency sends you a request to look at a particular document, most people would do that because the consequences of not doing it are fair. Can be fines, imprisonment, problems. Nasty stuff happens if you ignore government agencies. So I can see why attackers are using spoofed government agency documents as a means to get engagement. Now, the particular article talks about what may turn out to be a campaign in the US. However, the reason that I would bring this to your attention is, as I'm aware, the majority of listeners are not US based. However, if this particular method is being used successfully in the US and it's hit the mainstream cyber news, expect there to be copycat type fraud being perpetrated in other countries, UK, European countries, whatever it may be. So it's worth being aware that this stuff is actually pretty well done. Tends to use genuine DocuSign accounts. So they are real DocuSign documents that you're being sent to, and they appear to be associated with very realistic looking spoofs of government agencies. So definitely worth being aware that this is going on. Keep an eye out. As always, if you're not expecting communications, electronic communications from anybody that asks you to do something like sign your life away, transfer money, or whatever it may be, start being skeptical and confirm that it really is what you think it is before you do anything with it. Worth a read of the article anyway. And then I'm going to finish up with a couple of articles which are more in the broader arena of cybersecurity. You may not be aware, but there are political machinations going on within CISA at the moment, which I think is worth us all being aware of, because as I've said before, I put a lot of faith in the information that comes out of CISA. I would have said that for a government agency, I think it does a pretty good job for almost everything that I come across that it's doing. I mean, maybe other things, as we'll see from the articles, there are things that those in the States may have a different opinion on that. However, I do think there's an awful lot of good stuff that comes out of CISA. So CISA was, my understanding, was created in around 2018 by the previous Trump administration with the remit to protect US critical infrastructure and US federal agencies. Its history has been it's had a little bit of a bumpy ride, mainly around getting involved in attempting to identify disinformation in the US, which then got swept up into the whole what happened in the 2020 election. So, off the back of that, there have been probably political appointees rather than necessarily the best cyber people that have been sort of parachuted in to run it. Well, the director, Jen Easterly, has said that she will be stepping down on the 20th of January, which is the inauguration day of the new president. Mainly, it appears because her and various other Biden administration appointees are Biden administration appointees. The other side of it is, of course, there is now pressure from certain Republican senators to severely limit the remit of CISA and even calls to abolish CISA. So I'm hoping that sense will prevail with all of this. I mean, just to put in context, some of the things that have been said against CISA. So Rand Paul is a senator from somewhere or other who is going to take over as the Senate Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee chairman. Has been quoted as saying, we've survived for 248 years without them. I think a lot of what they do is intrusive and like to end their intrusions. Well, okay, that's fine. All I would say to that is, well, for the majority of those 248 years, you have not actually had other nation states deliberately looking to undermine your government via cyber attacking at various levels. So come on, guys, let's stop being political and let's stick to stuff that really is really genuinely helpful. So anyway, look, be aware of this stuff because whilst it would be lovely to say, well, I'm not in the US, so it doesn't matter. Well, I think a lot of us make very good use of the information that comes out of CISA, and if it is going to be basically messed about with, then we may need to think about where else we can get reliable, solid information, and just ensure that if its remit changes and it becomes less useful, and some of the processes that that they run cease to be providing us with globally with good information, well, we'll need to plug the gaps. Worth thinking about that now, because I would expect changes to begin at the end of January. And then finally from me, not so much specifically cybersecurity, but general security. Sweden has published a Doomsday Prep for Dummies guide, which is absolutely first class. So I know that I may appear to be conspiracy theory doomsdayist at times. Maybe it's because of the industry we work in. We see a lot of nasty stuff going on, and we see a lot of things that we are confident are being directed at those of us in the West by nation states who would very much like to undermine the West for whatever, for their own reasons. However, I mean, well done to Sweden for preparing their entire population for all sorts of potential doomsday type events. Touches on cyber attacks, IT outages, payment systems, and other bits and pieces, but it also covers all of the usual things that from right the way from nuclear war at one end through to as I say, technology attacks on technology and blah blah blah. It just goes to show that some governments, um, I think, have a much, I'm going to say they have a clearer view of where the threats really are, and it may be geographical. Um, Sweden, Finland has only very recently extracted itself from the influence of Russia and the Soviet Union, or ex-Soviet Union. Sweden is bordering up against this. There was an article that I saw yesterday, which I will, I'll dig out the link for it, talking about the fact that there's been a subsea cable, a sabotage to a subsea cable off Gotland, which is an island off Sweden, which is almost definitely, well, I say almost definitely, it is allegedly Russian attack on global technology infrastructure. So I think, maybe Sweden is a little bit ahead of the game with this stuff and sees the threats better than some other European countries, or possibly outside of Europe. Well, maybe the people are looking elsewhere. Certainly in Taiwan, we'd be looking at the Chinese for this sort of stuff. Anyway, look, it's a really interesting PDF that covers all sorts of things. I would suggest you have a read. Those of you that are old and crumbly, a bit like me, then will remember the Protect and Survive pamphlets from the 70s and 80s in the UK, which were the most scary doomsday pamphlets about nuclear war. Basically saying, go and hide under your stairs, kind of thing. But this has got lots and lots of really good information in it. If you're into this sort of stuff, have a look at the link. There is a link to a version of the PDF. If Crisis or War Comes, it's called, and it is in English. So well done to Sweden for producing something that's genuinely useful like this. And if you are concerned in any way, have a look. There's good stuff in it. Right, that's enough from me for today. Hope you have